Hello, dear DSC candidates. Welcome back to my Grammar for Success channel. I am Koresh Babu, a retired lecturer in English from Hyderabad. In this video, I am going to explain all about the literary movements of part 2. I therefore request all of you to pay a very good attention to this video till the end without skipping it in the middle. I also request all of you to consider subscribing to my channel and also sharing this video with all your friends who are also going to take the DSC examination along with you very shortly. Thank you so much. Now let's get into the video. Transcendentalism 1830s to 1860s. So this is the 8th literary movement, and you know very well this video is in continuation of the first video in which I have dealt with 7 literary movements, and in this second video I am going to deal with 7 more literary movements, and this is the 8th one. Okay, and this is Transcendentalism, and this transcendental movement existed between 1830 and 1860. Okay, and that is about the time. And here, what is this Transcendentalism? Okay, let us look at the meaning of this Transcendentalism and also its key features. Okay, what are the key features of this Transcendentalism? Here you pay attention. This is the first feature of this Transcendentalism. Transcendentalism is a philosophical and a literary movement. That means this transcendental movement is a philosophical. Philosophical means pertaining to philosophy. You can also take the meaning of theoretical or rational or logical from this word philosophical. So this is a philosophical movement. It is also what? A literary movement. Literary means pertaining to literature. Sahityamunaku sambandhinchina. So here this transcendentalism is a philosophical and literary movement that emerged. That emerged means that originated or that came into existence in the early 19th century in the United States of America. So this came into existence in the early 19th century in the United States, particular means especially in New England. So what is this New England in the USA? That means, there are some areas in the northeastern part of the USA. For example, Maine is a beautiful city. Connecticut and Rhode Island and Massachusetts and Vermont. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Some 5 cities will be there in New England, and all these cities together are called New England. In other words, this New England comprises these 5 cities: Maine, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Vermont, etc. So 5-6 areas are there. All these areas are located in the northeastern part of the USA, and because the Englanders or the Britishers came to that part. For example, this is what you call the USA, and here this is the northeastern part. So this is this area. So the Britishers came directly to this part by the Titanic ship, very well. Okay, so they came to this area and they settled here, and that is why this part is called, this area is called New England. So here this transcendentalism emerged in New England. Okay, that point you have to understand. That means in this region this transcendentalism originated or emerged in the early 19th century, right? This first point is over, and you go to the next point. It emphasized intuition and spirituality rather than empirical and material aspects. So this transcendental movement gave importance or gave priority only to intuition and spirituality rather than to empirical and material aspects. That means this movement gave importance to this intuition. Intuition means, in other words, insight. Okay, or you can also call it the sixth sense. Sometimes you will be telling your friends, my sixth sense is telling me that so and so thing is going to happen to me. Something you will be talking about the sixth sense. The so-called sixth sense is now called intuition. Okay, so the poets or the writers of this movement gave importance to intuition, and they also gave importance to this spirituality. Spirituality means holiness, piety, or sanctity, pavitrata, adhyatmikata, whatever you can call. So the writers and the poets of this movement gave importance only to these things, but not to these things. What are they? Empirical aspects. Empirical means experiential. Experiential means anubhavapurvakamaina. Okay, and material means physical, bhautikamaina. So anubhavapurvakamaina, bhautikamainatvanti vishyaలకు they did not give importance, but they gave top priority only to intuition and spirituality. This is yet another very important aspect or feature of this transcendentalism. Okay, you go to the next point. It encouraged the inherent goodness of people and nature, and the poets and the writers of this movement gave importance to the inherent goodness. Inherent means inborn, okay, or natural goodness of people. That means in the people you can find both goodness and evil, both goodness and bad or evil, whatever you can call. So that means so in a man you can find two things. You can find good, you can also find bad. These two things you can find, because according to Swami Vivekananda, man is a mixture of both good and bad, good and evil. So in man himself there is both good and bad, and according to the situations, according to the circumstances, this man will make use of his goodness, and according to situations and circumstances, he will make use of his evil or bad. So in this way, man can make use of these two things, and therefore Swami Vivekananda says man is a mixture of both good and evil. So here the poets of this movement or the writers of this movement encouraged the inherent goodness of people, the natural goodness of people, and also nature. Nature means natural world. In nature also you can find goodness, you can find good. So you must love that nature. You must love that good that you can find both in nature and in people. So in the people you can find goodness, you must like it, and in the natural world also you can find goodness. So here the poets and the writers of this movement encouraged what? The natural goodness of people and nature. And you go to the next important point of this movement. It promoted self-reliance and individualism and a deep connection with the natural world. So here, and the poets of this movement or the writers of this movement gave importance to self-reliance, individualism, and a deep connection with the natural world. So here are mentioned three important things. They gave importance to self-reliance. Self-reliance means self-dependence. That means one should depend on oneself. You should not depend on others. You must depend on your own abilities. You must depend on your own strength. Don't depend on others. So that's why that's called self-dependence or self-reliance, that you know very well. And individualism is also there. Individualism means individuality. Individuality means vyaktitvamu. So everybody should maintain his or her individuality. Okay, he should not bow down before others. He should not yield to others. Okay, he should maintain his own dignity, his own individuality, and all that. So here, the writers of this movement or the poets of this movement encouraged the people to give importance to self-reliance and individualism, and also they encouraged the people to have a deep connection with the natural world. So here you know very well. Let me tell you one important thing. We are all a part and parcel of this natural world. ఈ ప్రకృతిలో మనందరం ఒక భాగం. Therefore, we must have a deep connection with this natural world. ఈ ప్రకృతితో మనం ఒక లోతైన అనుబంధాన్ని కలిగి ఉండాలి. So that is what the writers and the poets of this movement wished for. They wished for self-reliance. They wished for individualism. They also wished for a deep connection with the natural world. So these are all the very important points, important features of this transcendental movement or transcendentalism. And a few more things are also there about this transcendentalism. Let us now go to learn all of them. Okay. So another important feature of this movement is writers and poets, okay, associated with transcendentalism. That means the writers belonging to this transcendental movement and the poets belonging to this transcendental movement, what did they do? Believed, they believed, they believed strongly what? That true knowledge comes from inner experience. So they believed that the true knowledge comes only from inner experience, but not rather than from external observation. That means not from outside. The true knowledge doesn't come from outside, but it comes only from the inner experiences and inner feelings and thoughts and actions and so on. So that is what they have believed very strongly. Okay, this is yet another important point or feature of this transcendental movement. And now you move on to learn about the historical context of this transcendentalism. What is that historical context? Here you pay attention. This American movement was influenced by European Romanticism. Remember, this American movement, you know very well, Transcendentalism is not the British movement, but it is an American movement. American literature is different from British literature. So this is an American movement, not the British movement. All other movements are British movements, but this one is what? The American movement. So this American movement was influenced. Influenced means impacted by what? By European Romanticism. You know very well, several years ago what happened in Europe? That means in Great Britain what happened? There emerged this Romanticism. You know very well, romantic poets. Okay, William Wordsworth was a great romantic poet. Okay, you know very well. So here, this American movement or this transcendental movement was greatly influenced by this European Romanticism. About the Romanticism, you learned in the first video also. Okay, if you didn't, you please refer to that first video and you can understand it once again. Very simple and very easy, right? And that's the first point. And this American movement sought to define a unique American philosophy. And this transcendental movement that emerged in the USA tried to define what? A unique American philosophy that tried its best to create the special, the unique American philosophy. This American movement tried its best to create some unique American philosophy. Okay, and here two things you have learned. This American movement was influenced by European Romanticism, and this American movement wanted to create some special American philosophy, unique American philosophy. So that is the thing this movement wanted to create in the USA, right? And these are the two important things in this historical context. And now, who are the writers who belong to this great movement means? Let us now look at them also. Notable figures. Notable figures means prominent poets or writers and their works that you are going to learn here. And here you pay attention. R.W. Emerson, Ralph Waldo Emerson. So essays are there. So he wrote so many essays, you know very well. And that is this was the great poet of this period, right? And you go to the next one, that is Henry David Thoreau. So this was also a prominent poet of this period, and he wrote Walden. Not only Walden, several poems, several books, several essays, both of them wrote in their lifetime. And here I have mentioned only one of them here. So anyway, on the whole, from this point you learn that these were the greatest and the most prominent poets of this transcendentalism. Okay, this is all about transcendentalism. Now we are going to learn about the next important literary movement. Come on, let's move on to the next slide. Ninth one, realist movement, and this realist movement existed during the mid 19th century. And what is this realist movement? The name itself is telling you that it is realist. Realist means that stressed the importance of presenting all the things as they are or realistically. So here the poets of this movement, the writers of this movement wanted to present before the people all the things as they are, without any exaggeration or without adding additional information and all that. They want to present the things or the matters before the public, before the people as they are realistically. ఉన్నది ఉన్నట్టుగానే ప్రజలకు తెలియజేయడమే ఈ మూమెంట్ లోని పోయట్స్ రైటర్స్ చేసిన పని. సో దట్స్ వై దిస్ మూమెంట్ ఈస్ కాల్డ్ రియలిస్ట్ మూమెంట్ అండ్ ఇన్ తెలుగు ఐ కెన్ సే యథార్థవాదము. ఓకే, యథార్థవాదము. రైట్, లెట్ us learn about its features. Okay, what are the key features of this realist movement? And here you pay attention. This movement emerged as a reaction against the emotionalism of romanticism. So this movement, this realist movement emerged. Emerged means, pretty well, originated or came into existence. How? As a reaction. As a reaction means as a response, as a reply, as an answer to what? Against the emotionalism of romanticism. That means, during this romantic period or romantic movement, what happened? The poets have made use of the emotions as they pleased, and extensively and at random also they made use of the emotions. That means they made undue display of emotions, and that's why emotionalism means what? Undue display of emotions. Emotions anuchitanga vaduta. They made use of emotions meaninglessly or extensively, unnecessarily, let me say. That was some kind of minus point in romanticism. So against this emotionalism of romanticism, this movement came into existence. దీనికి విరుద్ధంగా ఇది మరి emerge అయింది. This came into existence. Okay, and you go to the next important point. And the literature of this period focused on detailed, accurate depiction of everyday life and social conditions with accuracy. So here two things are mentioned. What is that? The literature of this period means the writers and the poets of this period focused means gave importance to what? Detailed. Detailed means elaborate, and accurate means exact. What? Depiction means description or portrayal of what? Everyday life. That means they wanted the everyday things of life to be presented or to be described as they are, or realistically. And social conditions with accuracy. They also wanted the social conditions of the people accurately, as they are, realistically. So whatever may be the social conditions of the people, maybe they are middle class conditions, poor conditions, needy conditions, downtrodden conditions. The social conditions of the people might be different. So whatever may be the social conditions of the people, the poets wanted to present all of them realistically as they are. So that is the main idea behind the realist movement. The name itself tells you that realist movement means the things must be presented realistically. That is the meaning of this realist movement, and this point is okay. So here the first point is everyday life should be presented realistically, social conditions should be presented realistically, right? And you go to the next important point. It explored social issues and class conflict. That means the poets of this period, the writers of this period explored means dealt with. They dealt with what? Social issues. Social issues means what? Social problems in the society. There will be so many problems, and they have dealt with those social problems realistically. One part. And they also dealt with class conflict. Class conflict means class issues, class distinctions. So in those days or today also, you can find class distinctions in the society, isn't it? Lower class people, middle class people, upper middle class, lower middle class, high class. These are all called class distinctions. About these class distinctions, they have dealt with in their writings. So these the writers of this period, the poets of this period have dealt with these social issues and class distinctions very clearly, very realistically in their writings. And here you pay attention. Characters in this literature were shaped by their environment and circumstances. So here the characters in this literature, whatever the writers and the poets have written, so that is called the literature of this period. So in that literature, what happened? The characters were shaped or created as they are realistically, according to the environment and according to circumstances. So the characters are created according to the environment, according to the circumstances of the society. So that is the thing they did during this period. In this way, this is all about the realist movement. And now let's move on to learn a few more things about this realist movement. Historical context of this realist movement. What is the historical context? Realist movement emerged in the wake of romanticism. So in the wake of means as a result of, you know that very well, as a result of అంటే romanticism యొక్క ఫలితంగా this realist movement emerged, came into existence, originated in the wake of romanticism. Romanticism యొక్క ఫలితంగా this came into existence. So the first point is clear, and it sought to portray life as it was. So this realist movement wanted to portray life as it was. All the poets of this movement, all the writers of this movement wanted to portray the life of the people as it was. That means realistically, right? And often highlighting what? The struggles of the lower and the middle class. So the stories can be created only with the lives of lower classes and middle classes. With the high classes, there will be no stories at all. The stories are only with the lower class people and middle class people. So here they presented the struggles of the lower class people and the middle class people realistically. So the poets and the writers of this movement wanted to portray the life of the lower class people and the middle class people realistically. That's the direct point. The historical context is over. Now let us learn about the writers of that movement, notable figures and their works. Who are the notable figures of that period? Means Leo Tolstoy, he wrote Anna Karenina, and here Gustav Flaubert, Madame Bovary, and here another poet is there, Henry James, the portrait of a lady. So all these were the greatest poets, the most prominent poets of this realist movement. Okay, and with this the realist movement will come to an end. Now we are going to learn about the next important literary movement. 10th one, naturalist movement, late 19th and early 20th century. Naturalist movement means సహజవాదము. Realist movement means యథార్థవాదము. Naturalist means సహజవాదం something. I am giving the Telugu meaning on my own. Okay, సహజవాదం something. Naturalist movement, and this movement existed between the late 19th century and early 20th century. Okay, so between this period this movement existed. Okay, keep those things in your mind, and now let us learn about the key features of this movement. What are the key features of this movement? So this movement was an extension of realism with a focus on determinism. So this naturalist movement is nothing but an extension. An extension means it's a prolongation of what? The realist movement. Okay, that's the first point. And it focuses on the determinism. Determinism means what? So it is a kind of doctrine that God, who knows all about the events that are going to happen to you, will guide you through all those things towards salvation. So that is some kind of doctrine. That means, you know, God knows all the good things and bad things that are going to happen to you in your life, but He will allow you to pass through good things and bad things. That is called determinism. నీ దారిలో మంచి చెడు రెండు ఉంటాయి, ఇవన్నీ దేవుడికి ముందే తెలుసు. అయినా యు ఆర్ సపోజ్ టు వాక్ త్రూ ఆల్ ఆఫ్ దెమ్. యూ హ్యావ్ టు పాస్ త్రూ ఆల్ దోస్ థింగ్స్, త్రూ గుడ్ థింగ్స్ అండ్ బ్యాడ్ థింగ్స్. దట్స్ వై ఇన్ అవర్ లైఫ్ వాట్ హ్యాపన్స్ when we are living this life, sometimes we receive some good things, sometimes we receive bad things. We face good things, we face bad things. So we have to move through these good things and bad things. That itself is called determinism. And that is all about this movement. It was influenced by Darwin's theory of evolution. So you know very well about Darwin's theory of evolution. So according to this Darwin, man came from an ape, man emerged from an ape. So that was the theory of Darwin, and this movement was influenced or impacted by Darwin's theory of evolution. And the next point is the writers of this period ended their works in pessimistic and deterministic tone. So the writers of this period, the poets of this period, ended their works in pessimistic tone. Pessimistic means in a sad and sorrowful and negative tone. They ended their works in a sad and sorrowful tone, and also in deterministic tone. Deterministic means on the way of life, you have to face both good things and bad things. You have to pass through both good things and bad things. ఏది ఎట్లా జరిగేది ఉంటే అట్లా జరుగుతుంది. దట్ ఈస్ కాల్డ్ డిటర్మినిస్టిక్ టోన్. ఏది ఎలా జరిగేది ఉంటే అలా జరుగుతుంది, ఏది ఎలా రాసి పెట్టి ఉంటే అలా జరుగుతుంది అని చెప్తాం చూడండి. దట్ ఈస్ కాల్డ్ డిటర్మినిస్టిక్ టోన్. రేపు ఏం జరగబోతుందో నీకు తెలుసా? డూ యూ నో వాట్ యాక్చువల్లీ is going to happen to you? No. Do I know what actually is going to happen to me? No. So whatever may happen to you, to me, we must face it. We must pass through this life. కష్టమే రావచ్చు, సుఖమే రావచ్చు, దుఃఖమే రావచ్చు, ఏదైనా నీకు ఎదురు కావచ్చు. బట్ యూ మస్ట్ కీప్ ఆన్ మూవింగ్ అండ్ మూవింగ్ అండ్ మూవింగ్ ఆన్ దిస్ వే ఆఫ్ లైఫ్. ఈ జీవితం అనే గమనములో అలా ముందుకు వెళ్తూ ఉంటారు. ఇట్స్ కాల్డ్ డిటర్మినిస్టిక్ టోన్. So here the writers of this period ended their verse in pessimistic and also in the deterministic tone. ఏదెట్లా కానివ్వండి, ముందుకు సాగాల్సిందే, మంచైనా చెడైనా ముందుకు సాగాల్సిందే అనే ధోరణిలోకి సాగడాన్ని, that kind of tone is called deterministic tone, right? And you go to the next important point. They focused more on the struggles of working class. This is very simple and very easy. The writers of this period, the poets of this period focused only on the working class people of the society or the labor class people of the society, because they are only the people. They will be struggling very hard to move along the path of life. జీవితం అనే దారిలో వాళ్ళన్నిటినీ ఒడిదుడుకులను ఎదుర్కొంటూ పోతుంటారు. There are so many ups and downs. Life is full of ups and downs. So they will be passing through all those ups and downs. So we should learn to pass through the ups and downs of life. So writers of this period focused only on the struggles of the working class people or labor class people. So all these are the important features of this naturalist movement. And now let's move on to learn a few more things about this movement. Historical context. What is the historical context of this one? Influenced by scientific theories, particularly by Darwinism, naturalism sought to apply a more empirical or practical or realistic approach to literature. So here this naturalist movement was influenced or impacted by scientific theories such as Darwin's theory of evolution. This naturalist movement wanted the writers or the poets to be more empirical, to be more realistic towards literature. That means this naturalist movement wanted the writers and the poets to write that literature which is as realistic as possible. So that is what this naturalist movement wanted the poets and the writers to do, right? That is all about the historical context. Let us now learn about the poets and the writers of this period, notable figures and their works. So here you pay attention. Emily Zola, so Germinal, so that is the writing of this great poet or the writer Emily Zola, and Stephen Crane, the Red Badge of Courage. Okay, and next Thomas Hardy, Jude the Obscure. So these were all the greatest and the most prominent poets and the writers of this naturalist movement. Okay, and now let's move on to learn about the next important literary movement. 11th one, modernist movement that existed between early 20th century and mid 19th century. Keep that period in your mind. Modernist movement in Telugu, I can say modern, Adhunika Vadamu, something like that. And let us look at its key features. What are the key features of this movement? Come on, let us look at the first one. This movement emerged as a response to the disillusionment of World War I. So here, this movement, modernist movement, came into existence as a response. As a response means as a reply to what? The disillusionment of World War I. So disillusionment means, in other words, we can say uncertainty. Okay, uncertainty, Anishchiti of what? World War I. So during this World War I, what happened now? So several bad things happened all over the world. So there was some kind of uncertainty. So that is called disillusionment. Disillusionment means, in other words, hopelessness. Okay, hopelessness also you can say. So uncertainty or hopelessness was prevailing all over the world. So this movement emerged as a response to that uncertainty of World War I or hopelessness of that World War I, right? And here it openly rejected traditional narrative structures. So this modernist movement rejected what? Traditional narrative structures. Traditional narrative structure means old style of narrating the stories. So that is called traditional narrative structures or techniques. So this modernist movement rejected altogether the traditional narrative structures. Okay, and here the writers of this period made extensive use of stream of consciousness technique in their writings. So the writers of this period made use of this stream of consciousness technique. Stream of consciousness technique means whatever comes into your mind, that should be presented on the piece of paper. Okay, whatever comes into your mind, that must be put on a piece of paper. That is called the stream of consciousness. What are the ideas, what are the feelings, what are the thoughts that come into the mind that are to be presented on the piece of paper or in the writings. So that is called stream of consciousness technique. మనసులోకి ఏది వస్తే దాన్ని అలా రచనలో రాయడం, that is called stream of consciousness technique. So the writers of this period made extensive use of stream of consciousness technique in their writings. Okay, and next they experimented with form and language. So the writers of this period, the poets of this period, experimented extensively with the form, literary forms, okay, sahiti rupalu, something like that. They experimented with the literary forms and language also. They also experimented with the language. So these two things they experimented in their writings. So this is all about the modernist movement that existed between early 20th century and mid 20th century, right? And you move on to other important things of this movement. Historical context. What is the historical context of this modernist movement? Modernism arose in response to the rapid changes of the early 20th century, including industrialization, war, and urbanization. You know very well, this modernist movement came into existence in response to what? To the rapid changes that occurred in the early 20th century. What were the rapid changes that occurred in the early 20th century? Means industrialization, Parisramikikana, you know that very well, and the First World War, that took place in the early 20th century, and urbanization, Patanikarana, you know that very well. So all such things happened, all these changes happened all over the world, and in response to these changes, this modernist movement came into existence in the early 20th century, you know very well. Now let us learn about the writers of this period, notable figures and their works. Okay, and T.S. Eliot, The Wasteland. So you know very well about this T.S. Eliot. This T.S. Eliot belonged to this modernist movement. And next James Joyce, as he was famous for stream of consciousness technique, you know very well. James Joyce, Ulysses is there. And next Virginia Woolf, Mrs. Dalloway. So these are all the great writers and poets and of that modernist movement. Now let's move on to learn about the next important literary movement. So 12th one, postmodernist movement, and this movement has started existing since mid 20th century till date. Okay, till that means even today also this postmodernist movement is in existence. Okay, and here what are the key features of this postmodernist movement? Means here you pay attention, this movement originated or emerged as a reaction against modernism's seriousness. So here this postmodernist movement came into existence as a reaction against modernist movement. Okay, right. And you know very well, next the literature of this period celebrates playfulness, irony, and metafiction. You know very well, the writers or the poets of this period celebrated playfulness. Playfulness means non-seriousness or humor. Playfulness means, in other words, humor. So they celebrated humor, they celebrated this irony. That means they welcomed this humor, they also welcomed irony. Irony means sarcasm or mockery and all such things. Okay, and here metafiction. Metafiction means fiction, you know very well. Fiction means, you know, a fictitious story is called a fiction. Kalpita Kathan fiction anta. So metafiction means fiction that follows the fictional conventions very strictly and scrupulously. Fictional conventions nu tucha tapakunda patinche fiction nu, that is called metafiction. So here the writers of this period or the poets of this period celebrated. Celebrated means encouraged, let us say, encouraged humor, and they encouraged irony. They also encouraged metafiction. Okay, and you go to the next important point. The writers blurred the boundaries between the high and the low cultures. So the writers of this period blurred means, in simple language you can say, they have removed the boundaries between the high and low cultures. They have removed the distinctions between the high culture and low culture. So that was the thing the writers did during that period, and here they mixed various genres and wrote self-referential narratives. So they mixed various genres. So there are several genres are there. Literary genres, you know very well. Drama is a genre, novel is a genre, short story is a genre. There are so many literary genres are there. So the writers of this period mixed all these genres. That is one part, and they wrote self-referential narratives. They wrote narratives that referred to themselves only. తమ గురించి తామే తెలుపుకునే రచనలు చేపట్టారు. They are called self-referential narratives. Right? This is all about postmodernist movement. And now let's move on to learn a few more things about this. Postmodernism reflects the complexities of contemporary life, including globalization, media saturation, and the questioning of identity. So this postmodernism reflects, okay, mirrors what? The complexities of contemporary life. So during the present days, so the people are living some kind of complex life. Okay, they are facing so many problems. They are facing ups and downs in their life. So here they are called complexities, hurdles, problems of contemporary life. So this postmodernism reflects or reveals the problems of contemporary life, one point, including globalization. So because of globalization, the people are facing some problems. Okay, media saturation also. Media saturation means media's involvement is too much in the lives of the people. And the questioning of identity. You have to identify yourself by various aspects, through caste, through religion. Okay, identity. What is your identity? That means you must tell you that you are a Hindu, that you are a Christian, that you are a Muslim. Your identity. Okay, and of the Hindus, again some identity. You are is BCA, BCB, BCD, BC. What is this? This identity, questioning identity. So here, because of the globalization, because of media saturation, because of questioning of identity, people are facing so many problems. And this postmodernism reflects the complexities of contemporary life of the people. Because of globalization, because of media saturation, because of identity. Okay, what is that? People are facing so many problems, and this postmodernism is reflecting those problems, those complexities, those difficulties in the writings. So that is there. This is all about the historical context. Now let us learn about the writers of this period. Okay, notable figures and their works. Thomas Pynchon, Gravity's Rainbow. Okay, and here Salman Rushdie. Okay, you know very well. He wrote Midnight's Children. He was a great writer. He was also a great writer. You know that very well. And Don DeLillo. Okay, White Noise. So these are all the great writers. Okay, popular writers of this present time, that is postmodernism movement. Right. And now let's move on to learn about the next important literary movement. So 13th one, contemporary as post-colonial movement, late 20th century to present. So that the details are clearly given here. What are the key features or main points of this contemporary movement? Contemporary movement means Samakalina Udyamamu, something like that in Telugu. So I am only giving you those Telugu names. Please, if they are, you can say, meaningful, you please learn them or keep them in mind. Otherwise, put them aside. Okay, and the main points about this one. Okay, this movement arose as a response to the experience of colonialism and its aftermath. So this movement came into existence as a response to the experiences of colonialism. What is this colonialism? Colonialism is nothing but the domination of a people or area by a foreign state or nation. So that is called colonialism. Okay, domination of a people, domination of an area by a foreign state or foreign nation. So that domination itself is called colonialism. So here, and its aftermath, that means its aftermath means after results. Okay, it's the results of this colonialism, they are called aftermath. Aftermath means tadanantarapu palitalu. Colonialism, tadanantara palitalu. So as a response to the experiences of colonialism and its aftermath, this movement came into existence. This point is clear. This contemporary movement came into existence as a response to the experiences of colonialism and its aftermath means its results. Okay, and you go to the next one. And the literature of this period explored identity, displacement, and resistance. So the writers of this period dealt with what? Identity. Identity means what? So to which country do you belong to which state do you belong to which area do you belong to which caste do you belong to which religion do you belong to. So this is called identity. So the writers of this period dealt with identity and also displacement. Displacement means banishment or expulsion, వెలివేయుట, driving the people of that area to some other place. ఆ ప్లేస్ ను ఆక్రమించుకోగానే అక్కడి నుంచి వాళ్ళని తరిమి కొట్టడం. దట్ ఈస్ కాల్డ్ డిస్ప్లేస్మెంట్. అండ్ రెసిస్టెన్స్ మీన్స్ యు నో వెరీ వెల్. రెసిస్టెన్స్ మీన్స్ అపోజిషన్. సో ద రైటర్స్ ఆఫ్ దిస్ పీరియడ్ have dealt with the problems of identity, the problems of displacement, the problems of resistance. So about these problems the writers of this period have dealt with in their writings. Okay, and you go to the next important point. It focused on marginalized voices. So the writers of this period focused or gave importance to marginalized voices. Marginalized means neglected voices, disregarded voices. That means disregarded people. They gave importance to the neglected people of the society or disregarded people of the society. This is the thing the writers of this period did. And next it made use of native languages and folklore. And the writers of this period made use of what? Native languages more and more, and also folklore. Folklore means folk languages. Village languages are called folklore. Palle Bhasha. So something like that. So the writers of this period made use of native languages and also folklore. These two things they made use of in their writings. They gave importance to marginalized voices, neglected people, and they have dealt with the problems of identity, displacement and resistance. Okay, this movement came into existence as a response to the experiences of colonialism and its consequences or its results. So all these things you have learnt, and now let's move on to learn about the historical context of this movement. Historical context. Contemporary literature is shaped by the interconnectedness of the modern world, addressing themes relevant to a global audience. So this contemporary literature is shaped by the interconnectedness of the modern world. So today all the world is connected together. Okay, now it is not a big world, it is a global village. All this world has become into a global village because all the people of this world are connected with one another, with each other. All the nations of this world are connected together. So here the contemporary literature is the result of that interconnectedness of the modern world, addressing themes relevant to global audience. So therefore in this contemporary literature you can find the themes that are relevant to global audience, because the writers of this period don't write for the people of some specific area. They compose their writings keeping all the people of the world in mind. If they write for Salman Rushdie's Midnight Children is there, it is not meant for one country or one area or one place or something like that. It is meant for all. So global audience. That novel was written by Salman Rushdie, but it was read by all over the world. All the people of the world have read that novel. So that's a contemporary literature presents themes relevant to a global audience, because it is this literature is connected with all the nations of the world. Interconnectedness means all the nations of the world, right? This is the historical background of this movement, and you move on to the important writers of this period, notable figures and their works. Okay, Chinua Achebe, Things Fall Apart. So he was a contemporary movement writer, Chinua Achebe, right? And here Ngugi Thiong'o, because I have practiced the pronunciation of this name, because on the internet I have searched for the name of this writer, and it is there, Ngugi Thiong'o. Ngugi Thiong'o. That is the name of the writer, and he wrote Petals of Blood. Okay, and next Salman Rushdie, Shame. This is yet another important novel written by Salman Rushdie. Salman Rushdie wrote so many novels, so many books. Okay, and this is one of them. So these were all what the famous writers of this contemporary literature, contemporary movement. And now let's move on to learn about the last literary movement. The last literary movement is Aestheticism. Aestheticism means pertaining to beauty. Andamu vadamu. So it is the theory of beauty. It is the theory of beauty. So aestheticism, so this is also a literary movement, and here aestheticism was a literary and artistic movement. It's a literary movement, it's an artistic movement. Sahitya Udyamamu, Kala Udyamamu, something like that. That emerged in the late 19th century, primarily in Britain. Okay. That emerged when? In the late 19th century. Where? Primarily in Britain. Okay. And you go to the next point. It promoted the idea of art for art's sake. So this aestheticism promoted what? The idea of art for art's sake. So art is meant only for art's sake, but not for any other purpose. That is the meaning of this. కళ కోసమే తప్ప ఇంకో మరో దాని కోసం కాదు. దట్ ఈస్ ద మీనింగ్ ఆఫ్ దట్. art for art's sake means art is for art's sake but not for any other thing. That is that. So meaning that art should be valued for its beauty and emotional power. So this art should be evaluated on the strength of its beauty and emotional power. So on the basis of the beauty and emotional power, this art should be evaluated or estimated. Okay, it should be evaluated, but rather than for any moral, political, utilitarian purpose. This art should not be valued for any moral purpose, political purpose, utilitarian purpose. Okay, it should not be valued for these purposes, but it should be valued for only beauty and emotional power. So this is the meaning of this art for art's sake. Kala kosame tappa moral, naitika, rajakiya, utilitarian purpose. Okay, profit purpose. Okay, but it is meant only for beauty and emotional power, right? And you go to the next one. It laid emphasis on beauty, form, sensory experience. So it gives importance to beauty, okay, and a literary form and sensory experience. Sensory means, we have 5 senses, and these 5 senses will have their own experiences. When you listen to some beautiful music, it is the entertainment, it is the enjoyment of this ear. When you smell something sweet, what is that? It is the enjoyment of this nose. Smelling is also a sense, very well. And when you watch some beautiful scenery, what happens? It gives some kind of a feasting effect to the eyes. Okay, so these are the senses. Seeing, smelling, tasting, what is that, hearing, these are all senses. So the experiences these senses get are called sensory experiences. ఈ పంచేంద్రియాలు పొందే అలాంటి అనుభూతులను sensory experiences అంటాం. So here this aestheticism lays importance to beauty, literary form and sensory experiences. Okay, and next it rejected the didactic and moral messages in art. So it doesn't give any didactic message. Didactic means scholarly or educational message or moral message. It gives neither didactic message nor moral message. Okay, and here it was inspired by classical art. So this aestheticism is inspired by classical art, nature and exotic cultures. Exotic cultures means grand cultures, great cultures, okay, unusual cultures. అసాధారణమైనటువంటి కల్చర్స్ చేత అది ప్రభావితము చేయబడింది, రైట్? అండ్ దిస్ ఈజ్ ఆల్ అబౌట్ దిస్ aestheticism. Okay, now you move on to learn about other things of this aestheticism. Another point about this aestheticism is it celebrated beauty above all else. That means it gives top priority to beauty. First point is over, and advocating that the pursuit and appreciation of art, okay, or beauty should be free from moral and social constraints. So whoever wants to appreciate this art and pursue this art should be free from moral constraints and social constraints. That means whoever wants to enjoy beauty should not be prevented by social constraints or moral constraints. Let him enjoy that beauty of that thing. Okay, so let him enjoy, so if anybody wants to enjoy the beauty, let him enjoy, but no moral constraints, no social constraints should prevent him from enjoying that beauty. అందాన్ని ఆస్వాదించడంలో ఎలాంటి నైతికమైనటువంటి, సాంఘికమైనటువంటి మరి కన్స్ట్రెయింట్స్, ఇబ్బందులు ఉండొద్దు అని చెప్పి something it is said. Okay, you go to learn about the writers of this movement, notable figures and their works. Who are the notable figures of this? Oscar Wilde, The Picture of Dorian Gray, okay, and then Walter Pater, Marius the Epicurean, and next Aubrey Beardsley, Beardsley, Under the Hill, Unfinished Work. So these were all the great writers of this aestheticism. Okay, With this, the second part of literary movements will come to an end. And now we are going to solve one exercise. Okay. And before you solve this exercise that I am going to give you here, please try to watch this video twice or thrice so that you can keep all the points in your mind. And only after that you try to solve the exercise. Then you can answer all the questions correctly as far as possible. Okay. And now let's move on to solve the exercise. Multiple choice questions on all literary movements from DSC examination perspective. So all these questions are framed and given here from your examination perspective. The questions that you are going to find in this exercise are given on all literary movements. So that means even on the movements that I have dealt with in the first video also. So please, you watch that video and this video thoroughly well, and after that only you try to answer these questions. And now you go to the first question. The classical movement was primarily influenced by the literature of Renaissance Europe, ancient Greece and Rome, medieval England, Victorian Britain. Go to the second question. Which of the following is not a characteristic of the classical movement? Harmony and order, imitation of nature, emphasis on emotion and imagination, use of structured poetic forms. So now you move on to other questions. Third question. The medieval movement was largely influenced by humanism, Christian doctrine, scientific inquiry, political revolutions. Fourth question. Who is considered a leading figure of the Renaissance movement? Geoffrey Chaucer, William Wordsworth, William Shakespeare, Alexander Pope. Fifth question. The concept of carpe diem, seize the day, is closely linked with which literary movement? Please try to answer this question. Renaissance, metaphysical, romantic, realist movements. Okay. You go to the sixth question. John Donne and Andrew Marvell are associated with which literary movement? Classical, metaphysical, romantic, modernist. Seventh question. The neoclassical movement emphasized spontaneity and imagination, reason and order, exploration of the unconscious, spiritual mysticism. Eighth question. Which of the following works belongs to the neoclassical movement? The Rape of the Lock by Alexander Pope, Ode to a Nightingale by John Keats, Paradise Lost by John Milton, Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. Ninth question. Emotion recollected in tranquility is a key idea of which literary movement? Romanticism, Neoclassicism, Modernism, Realism. 10th question. Which of the following poets is not associated with Romanticism? John Keats, William Blake, Percy Shelley, that is P.B. Shelley, T.S. Eliot. 11th question. Which of the following themes is central to Victorian literature? Exploration of individual identity, industrialization and social reform, celebration of the supernatural, artistic experimentation. The 12th question. Charles Dickens' novels reflect which literary movement? Romanticism, Realism, Modernism, Postmodernism. 13th question. Realism focused on fantasy and imagination, detailed depiction of everyday life, metaphysical and spiritual themes, utopian idealism. 14th question. Which work is a key example of naturalist literature? Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, The Red Badge of Courage by Stephen Crane, The Wasteland by T.S. Eliot, The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. 15th question. The modernist movement was influenced by the rise of Romanticism, the Enlightenment, the trauma of World War I, the French Revolution. 16th question. Stream of consciousness is a hallmark of which literary movement? Romanticism, Modernism, Realism, Neoclassicism. 17th question. Which of the following authors is associated with the modernist movement? Geoffrey Chaucer, James Joyce, William Blake, Alexander Pope. 18th question. Postmodernism is characterized by a rejection of fragmented narratives, irony, parody and metafiction, emphasis on moral instruction, return to classical poetic forms. 19th question. Which of the following is an example of postmodernist literature? Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe, White Noise, Don DeLillo, Jane Eyre, Charlotte Bronte, Anna Karenina, Leo Tolstoy. 20th question. Which literary movement explores the legacy of colonialism and cultural identity? Modernism, Realism, Postcolonialism, Metaphysical. 21st question. Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart is a key text of which movement? Realism, Modernism, Postcolonialism, Naturalism. 22nd question. The theme of alienation is most closely linked with which movement? Neoclassicism, Romanticism, Modernism, Realism. 23rd question. Gabriel Garcia Marquez' 100 Years of Solitude is an example of which movement? Surrealism, Postcolonialism, Magical Realism, Modernism. 24th question. Art for art's sake is a central idea of which literary movement? Romanticism, Aestheticism, Realism, Neoclassicism. Now, let's go to the last question. 25th question, the last question of this exercise. The Beat generation, 1950s, was known for critique of Victorian values, experimental poetry and rejection of materialism, revival of neoclassical ideals, exploration of Gothic horror. With this, this small exercise will come to an end. Now, let's move on to look at the answers for all these questions. So these are all the answers for the questions from 1 to 10. These are all the answers for the questions from 11 to 20. These are all the answers for the questions from 21 to 25. With this, this video will come to an end. Thank you so much for watching this video. Hello, dear DSC candidates. Thank you so much for watching this wonderful video. If you have any problem in understanding any of the things that I have explained in this video, please make a mention of it in the comment section. I am here to explain it once again, and I am here to clarify your doubts, and with another beautiful video on literary schools, I shall be back to you. Until then, bye. See you, all of you.